4 amazing facility managers and people who have been in the facilities world for many years and big supporters of IFMA San Diego, so thank you. I'm going to have each one of them talk a little bit about their experience in the FM world and how they've proceeded in their careers and found success. And then I have a few questions for them, and I hope that you will be writing down questions that you have for our panel. And so we'll be walking around the room and asking questions from the panel directly from you as well. So I'm just going to do a brief introduction before we get moving here. First, we have Sandra Limbaugh. Sandra's currently with Viasat. You might remember Sandra. She helped us facilitate the tour of TaylorMade, her previous provider a few years ago, which was an amazing tour. And we recently had a fireside chat at Viasat, so Sandra's been really supportive of IFMA. Michael Kane, you might remember Michael. Michael's currently with Francis Parker School. Prior to that, he was with Pulse Electronics. We have Billy Lucas, currently with General Atomics. Prior to that, AECOM and a long, broad history. And a past president, Eric Baugh. Eric Baugh is currently with Cresa San Diego and spent a long time of his career with BAE. Sorry. So I think we're going to go ahead and start today. Let's kick off with Jolie. All right, why don't you spend, so each one of them, we're going to spend 5 to 7 minutes just giving you a brief history of their career, the highs, the lows, write down the questions that you have for them, and let's get started.
Okay. Guess this works?
Yep.
Okay. Well, Scorpio. I moved here to San Diego in '96. And joined IFMA because I was an IFMA member in college, and I thought it was a good way to meet people and find a job. And I actually did find my first job here through IFMA. Bob Templeton hooked me up with Roz Guthrie at Jack in the Box, and I didn't sell fries. I was in the facilities department, and that was a stepping stone. I ended up working for the military as a consultant for the last 20 years, and so IFMA was not really useful to me in terms of business development. But I just appreciate the industry, and I'm in the industry. I'm a facilities planner. And to me, it was just educational, and I learned so much from my peers. And actually, it's just the passion of the people in this industry that impressed me so much that I feel like I'm a believer in the cause. So I've been active in IFMA not only in our chapter but also through the Academic Facility Council, and I'm a past president of that. Locally, I am currently the IFMA Foundation liaison, which I thought when I took the job that I just had to attend a quarterly call and report back to the chapter, but I found out that those calls kind of went away anyway. But the chapter is really interested in having an accredited degree program in Southern California. So I started trying to make headway on that, hit a lot of brick walls. Even MiraCosta College has hit brick walls. They have a program and they ended up canceling it because of lack of students. We have a good relationship with UCSD that has a program, and so we're trying to figure out why we have this dearth of students. And we actually have a visitor today, Carlos, who is working with community colleges, and we're calling this the FM pipeline. And locally, at our chapter, what I've done is worked closely with a group called ACE, Architecture, Construction, Engineering, and it's a high school program that it's an extracurricular program for kids developing scholarships and everything in this industry. And they have welcomed our involvement as IFMA. So I'm telling you all about this because I'm hoping I can get more people involved in the ACE program. So you can volunteer as a mentor. The mentors attend every other week at the high schools. But because of our unique relationship, they're happy to just use us as guest speakers. So you don't have to sign up for a whole semester. You can come to a high school near you and speak to the kids and expose them to this facility management career. So maybe they'll choose it as a career, as a college degree option. So that's my involvement in IFMA. My career, like I said, I've done military planning for the last 20 years. I have a degree in architecture and an MBA, and I think we're going to talk a little bit later about credentials and things like that, whether they've been useful, but I've accumulated them. not because I'm pretentious, but because different clients like different things. And so most of what the credentialing that I've achieved was either an educational process like LEAD. I just wanted to know more, so as part of the studying process, you gain knowledge. And also, again, for credibility. So I'm a certified facilities planner, AICP, I'm a CFM, and I did that not because I felt like I didn't know what I was talking about, but because I wanted other people to recognize. And I think as a woman in the industry, that was important to me. Also, by the way, it took me 20 years to get through college, so I have like a paper facelift. When you look at my resume, I look a lot younger. I graduated in 95. So that I think, again, adding credibility. It's like if you, back in the 90s when I moved here, I was a recent grad and I felt like I needed some kind of leverage to say, hey, I should earn more than minimum wage. You know, I have some experience. So that's probably my life in a nutshell.
Okay.
Who's next?
All right, why don't you pass it to Michael?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Mike Gain. I am currently the Director of Risk and Asset Management at Francis Parker School. And what that means is I'm responsible for safety, security, sustainability, and capital project management. And when I took the job, it was right after the Sandy Hook shooting. And now with school security changing rapidly, a lot of my time just goes to filling my, or getting caught up to speed with best practices in that area. So I haven't been super involved with it in San Diego since joining Parker, but I can tell you I'm incredibly grateful for IFMA and what it's done for me. So when I moved from Boston to San Diego in 2003, I attended a luncheon and put out a little fish tank, and everybody did business card drops. And then I went and had lunch, and I met with Patty Holden. And Patty Holden had just got notice from Tracy Johnson that she was going to leave and go, I forget what pharmaceutical company, maybe Amylin. And so I got a job with Patty, which was great. And she was so dedicated to IFMA that there was no option about whether I was going to be involved or not be involved. So what that looked like over the course of the next 12 years has been involvement in World Workplace and helping out international. My most recent mission, and by mission I mean like kicking and screaming with corporate, is regarding the salary survey. So the last salary survey that was published was 2011, with great involvement from some of the people in this room and with this chapter. And I thought it was time for a new report to come up. So I've been trying to promote that cause. In terms of the career, in 15 years, I've been laid off, merged, acquired, fired, and left. So I can't wait to talk about all of those. But part of that is why I ended up coming to a school that's been there for 100 years. So I just got sick of it. I got sick of putting together strategies that never came to fruition. So I'm really happy at the school, and thank you, and I'm glad to be here, so thanks for asking this.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Sandra.
Thank you. I'm Sandra Limbaugh. I currently work for Viasat. I started in the restaurant industry about 20 years ago for a company called Garden Fresh, Soup Plantation, Sweet Tomatoes. That's where I learned the difference between a floor sink and a floor drain. Like, I had zero experience in facilities. So, but I did see that they worked really hard, and I was bored in the AP department. But I did learn how to read a P&L, so I see where it all came together and why I spent time in the AP department, accounts payable, all of it. And then I worked there for about 10 years and got interested in the new construction and wanted to start building restaurants. So I interviewed for a job at Rubio's and got the job at Rubio's and started building Rubio's restaurants for about a year until I was recruited for another restaurant company called Sammy's Wood-Fired Pizza, and that was very stressful. I built 3 restaurants in about 6 months, and that's where I kind of like decided that maybe this restaurant thing wasn't for me. My kids were young, and on the weekends I was working, and they wanted chocolate milk, and I was turning them away, and they were crying, and I said, okay, I got to figure this out. I can't do this anymore. And kind of life heard me, because about a month later I was let go from that job. And for about 3 months I kind of reflected, and it was a very, I have to say, very down part of my career. But I really learned a lot about what I was doing wrong and what I could do better. And I just, it's hard not to take it personal when something like that happens to you, but you always find a way to come out a better person, or find, I actually found a dream job of mine in that 3 months. I started working for a golf company. I was very passionate about golf at the time. My daughter was also into golf, and so when I got the job at TaylorMade, it was a facilities project leader, and one of the biggest things that he wanted, or one of the first responsibilities was, he's like, you're going to move people. And I thought, move people? What does that mean, you know? And he was right. I was moving people from station to station, office to office every week. I thought for sure this job's going to go away. They're going to quit moving people. It never went away. And then I just kind of moved up. I got back into construction, did new projects for, tenant improvements for TaylorMade, did some manufacturing projects, worked there for about 10 years. And then I don't know if you guys are familiar, but TaylorMade and Adidas did a split, and there was a lot of restructuring and a lot of layoffs, honestly. And I was kind of tired. I was in a leadership position, and I was tired of coming to work to figure out who was going to get laid off in the next 6 months. And it just wasn't fun for me. And I loved the job. I loved the company, but it was just going in a direction where I thought I need to find a growing company. So it was through pretty much IFMA that I was introduced to my boss now, or my boss's boss, kind of how that worked. And he recruited me from an IFMA meeting like this. Believe it or not, you guys, it does happen. and that's how I landed at Viasat. And so I've been with Viasat now for almost 2 years. I am more, they call me the amenities person, services. I do all of the office coffee. I take care of the restaurants. We're opening up another restaurant. We're doing a coffee shop. Just anything that like Google and Facebook and Twitter are trying to attract all these engineers. Viasat is also trying to do that, and that's part of my job. I'm amenities. I'm trying to establish programs, car wash, dry cleaning, food trucks, all of that to come onto Viasat to keep our engineers on site and working longer hours, but they really appreciate it. So that's kind of where I am now, or how I landed here.
All right, thanks, Sandra. Pass that down on to Eric.
That was fun. Hi, I'm Eric Baugh. I started off my career at 17 and a half with the United States Army for 6 years. Left the Army as a Green Beret and went on to a number of defense companies, Alcoa Defense and others, and ended up at BAE Systems in the Intel community, working at the location of BAE in Rancho Bernardo for 26 years, of which I spent 10 of those years in Washington, D.C., building facilities for three-letter agencies that didn't want to have an opportunity to become part of a dirty bomb in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area after 9/11. So I've been a past president of the IFMA Real Estate Council at the corporate level, and then as past president of this organization and treasurer and first and second vice president and all those things. And it's a great organization. Obviously, you're enjoying it. I've been extremely successful being a part of this organization, and I think a lot of you have benefited from that as well, because good relationships always produce good results, and I think that's what business is all about: numbers and relationships.
All right. Well, we're going to jump into some questions, and one of the first ones, and Sandra, you made me think about this, I have for you. and this wasn't on the list of questions that I prepped you, so sorry. What non-facilities related job have you held that you feel that prepared you for where you are today in your career?
I was a server, I guess, waitress, whatever you want, a cocktail server. I worked at many restaurants during college, and I just see how my time in the restaurant, then now I was building restaurants, so you just never know that job you get at 16 or whatever can really help you. And it's basically where I learned to serve. Like when you are in the server position, like how you get your tip is, you know, how well you serve that person. And it's kind of like what I take with me, you know, in my career is whether I'm serving an engineer with office coffee or I'm, you know, serving someone myself, you know, at a catering event. That's really, I guess, helped me learn.
Service.
Yeah, service.
Great. How about you, Michael?
Yeah, so the summer position working for a moving company from junior year in high school to college, so it was like 5 years of moving. That definitely did it. And then growing up as a kid, I was not into sports. And my dad and I built an 800 square foot addition on my house.
Wow.
So that wasn't, I mean, in terms of labor, I made 13 cents an hour. But in terms of experience, it was priceless, so thanks.
Great.
While they were talking, I was thinking, well, gee, I guess I've always worked in facilities, but it's not true. It's just that every job I've had has related to facilities in some fashion because facilities is so broad. So I would agree with Sandra that, I mean, I've done everything from cocktail waitressing to managing an architecture firm. And I think everything in between is related to customer service. It's related to seeing things from the end user's perspective. So, I mean, I think every job I've had has prepared me for this.
Obviously for me it would be the United States Army as a Green Beret. I think, you know, you improvise everything, and when your plan A doesn't work, and that's common in this business, plan B and C need to work, so that's how it works.
Top that, huh? Okay. How have you asked for what you want in your career? Whether it be a raise, promotion, a project that you manage, that you want to manage. How do you elevate yourself in your organization by asking for it? Who wants to jump in on that? Aaron?
Had I known that was something you could do early on, I would have done it much earlier than I did the first time. The first time I did it, I became very successful. Our HR director, actually vice president, stopped me one day and said, "Have you told anybody what it is you want to do here?" And I said, "No." She said, "Well, you figure it out and then tell me." And I said, "Okay." And so I did. And Kevin Harkenrider, I don't know if you're familiar, Kevin. I went to Kevin one day and I said, "I want to take over the facilities department and give them their respect back because they've been abused by their current management for years." And he said, "Okay," and he walked away. And he said, "Thank you." Oh, he said, "Thank you," and then he walked away. And almost a year later, the director of facilities, Oscar Liebrich, left, and Kevin was looking for somebody. He said, "Oh my God, Eric asked." Nobody wants facilities. Come to Eric. That's how I got my first facilities job here at BA.
Eric, what were you doing when you said that to him?
The question was, what was Eric doing when he was promoted to facilities?
Construction subcontract management. So I was subcontracting all of BAE's construction management.
Like Eric, I mean, and I've been to enough seminars that I think this is a problem women have. We don't ask and we don't blow our own horns, so to speak. And so that's probably why I spent so much time developing credentials and things. So, hey, I'm worth it. But earlier in my career, I did because I was confronted with a situation. I was living in a small town, and I taught somebody to do something. She moved, got a job, and got $3 an hour more than I was getting. And I thought, well, no, there's something wrong with this. And my boss said, well, she's in a big city. I said, she's in El Dorado Hills, So he said, well, if you can demonstrate that you're being underpaid, then I'll consider a raise. So I actually called other architecture firms and said, here's what I do. I got 2 job offers out of it. But I found out what other people were getting paid. I called the Chamber of Commerce. So in essence, I did my homework. And then I did the same thing for an employee one time. She got a really poor raise. She was really depressed about it. And so I helped her. We looked at planning schedules, for pay grades. We looked at cost of living compared to our offices where other people were getting more money. And so we did our homework and presented it to the boss, and she got a good raise. So I think that would be my message, is do your homework.
Yeah, I think for me, early on, it was like justify my own existence through cost avoidance and a very heavy approach to asking for stuff. And then I was called endless self-promoter, I believe is what my boss said. And I said, well, who else is going to do it if it's not me, But it didn't necessarily get the result that I desired with that approach. And then most recently, this is within the past 6 weeks, I just interviewed for another job, got a written offer, and took it into my boss. So that was a very direct and assertive way to do it. But I let them know that I'm perfectly happy. I just need to make a little bit more dough. And that gap between what I'm making and the job I turned down is about $40,000. So I'm committed to the school. I love it here, but there was just a huge gap. And I knew conversations over the last 4 years were not getting me anywhere. So I finally just, unfortunately, did the thing I wanted to do the least, which is invest the time and energy in a different organization until I got a written offer. So.
For those of us in schools and not-for-profit organizations, pay is a struggle sometimes, and we have to go to new and different lengths to address that. I'll get to you in a minute, Jeff. I'll let Sandra answer first.
So with Viasat, I don't know why I just came in very confident, and I've always been since day one letting them know what I want and where I want my career to go. I do want to be a director someday. Viasat doesn't believe in titles, so you kind of have to direct your way without the title. So that was really something I had to get used to. I had worked my way up at TaylorMade. I had gotten the title, not the director title, but I had gotten the title that I want. And then I interviewed at Viasat, and they're like, well, we don't believe in titles. And I thought, oh my goodness, but we're going to pay you $30,000 more. Okay. So I had to really, say what was more important, the title or the money, and I'm very happy with my compensation at Viasat. What I want to grow is my job duties. So I'm doing a third of what I did at TaylorMade. And although it's a very, it's, 3 times the amount of people I'm dealing with because the company is so much bigger, there's still so much opportunity that I feel like I can add so much more value than I am. And I continue to remind my bosses, I can add value there. I've done that before. I can help here. And what I've really had to learn is not to stay in my own lane, but do it in a way where other people aren't going to get, they're not going to get affected by it, or they're not going to get their feelings hurt. They're not going to see me as coming trying to mow things and trying to change things. But I do see a lot of inefficiencies, and I do want to make the change for the better. And it's a challenge to me to bring my team together. And, let's all work together for a goal. I don't know how I got on that tangent, but sorry about that.
All right, I'm going to start roaming the room and giving you the microphone. I'm going to start with Deb. I saw her raise her hand first. And so you can address your question to the entire panel or somebody specifically. And please tell us who you are, and then state your question.
Thank you. I'm Deborah Hesmer. I work for CBRE until Monday, and then I'm working for MUFG, the bank, directly. My question is for Michael. By the way, nice to see you again, Michael. Were you prepared to take that other offer when you went into your management?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it just got to that point where the number was big enough that that's life-changing, you know, for my family. The part that I didn't mention was my daughter gets to go to school for free at a discount at Parker. So I have to look at that as compensation, even though it doesn't come through in the paycheck. And the other position was a completely different scope and would have me back to traveling again. Something that I don't currently have to do, thank God, because managing the projects in other cities where you're not physically located is a real challenge for those of us that have to do it. But yeah, I got to the point where I was ready to jump if it had to come to that.
Thank you.
I'm Bob Sanchez for Michael. Michael, question regarding the school. How do you feel about the teachers that are qualified carrying weapons to defend against what we've seen?
Yeah, I mean, I think I could probably dominate the airtime with my response. So, in simple, it's unfortunate that it's got to this point. And we have professional security services, and certainly are evaluating if they should be armed. But it is a very interesting topic, even regionally. So I always say my attitude might change if the county board decides to put a school resource officer from SDPD in every school on every day. Then my opinion on this might change. But until we see those government agencies kind of following suit, I don't think it's necessary for a school to go through the recommendation for the arming and the training of the teachers, but that's my own opinion. It's not the schools.
Thank you. And this is for whoever wants to answer. Carlos Santorelli, representing the California Community Colleges in building a statewide facilities management talent pipeline program. And as we're talking to new students and people that are interested in facilities management, you know, we throw out the average pay in different regions, you know, X amount of dollars in the Bay Area is significantly more where I'm from, but throughout California there's a need of 15,000 plus FM professionals annually. What would you recommend to young individuals getting into the industry to get them into facilities management? Thank you.
I tell them I started off at about $50,000 a year and made up to almost $400,000 a year. So if that doesn't at least pique interest, I don't know what else you can tell. The second part of that is, everyone in this room knows, facilities is the last organization in anybody's company that there's a whole bunch of knowledge from the senior management about. And they typically want to do is, they want to control it, but they never want to actually have hands-on. They just want to, from a distance, kibitz about it. And since that's the case, you can do an awful lot of work on your own, being left alone, solving management problems, and looking like a superstar, as long as you take advantage of every opportunity you get.
I would just add to that is that the beauty of facility management is that there's a place for everybody. It's not only such a broad industry, but there's such a wide variety of educational levels. You can start with a high school education, you can do college, you can start out with high school education and go to college while you're working. I mean, there's just so many opportunities. So it's kind of, like you said, take advantage of every opportunity. It's what you make out of it. So I don't think you can say that about every industry. So I think that's a big selling point for FN.
I'll talk. So I have to say that right now I am actually getting my degree in college. I was self-taught in facilities, honestly. And, you know, I would love to see someone actually go to school, because right now when I went to school, they're like, what do you want to get your degree in? And I'm getting a degree in business, but Yes, I'm going to use my degree in business, but how great would it be to have a degree in facility management? And I mean, like I said, I'm self-taught and learned how to read plans. I had very good leadership all through my career, and they were all so willing to teach me and be patient with me. And I think that I also want to do the same thing. But I do think that these credentials are important. After I finish school, it's taking me 20 years to finish school. After I finish school, my goal then will either I'll go on to get my master's, or I'll probably get some of the credentials. But doing it all at the same time and working is a lot.
I have one last thing to add to that, and that's that all work is done in a facility, whether it's done in your home or in an office building or a hangar or whatever it is. All work is done in a facility, and even if it's outdoors, it could be a facility as well. There's never going to run out of work. You're not ever going to be unemployed for any length of period of time. And again, it's an area that most people don't want anything to do with. So if you get in it, you stay in it, and most of the people who are facilities managers never intended to be.
Mm-hmm. And I hear that a lot from not only facility managers, but service providers that support us, that most of us didn't look to be in the jobs that we're in. We kind of fell into it, and usually it's because somebody saw something in us that complements the role. So my question to each of you, good or bad, did you have somebody who influenced your career in a way that helped you become successful today? You want to start?
Sure. Yeah, my senior leadership at BAE was when they took over in like 98, was and John Linehan and Kevin Harkenrider were my senior managers, and they taught me the leadership part of I knew how to do the work. I didn't know how to, and I knew how to lead people. What I didn't know how to do was to lead up the organization and how to manage vice presidents and presidents rather than managing the folks. The folks that worked for me were awesome. It was easy. It was the up part that was hard.
I never really had a formal mentor, but I think I just sort of model myself, and I see a little bit from that person, a little bit from that person. But I have to say that for the last 12 out of 20 years, the man who headed up our planning group, Charles Naldini, was a champion of mine, and he wasn't always the nicest person to work for, but loyalty was there, and our group went from company to company. So I worked for the same people for 12 years, even though I worked for like 4 different firms, acquisition, changing hands, all that stuff. But so my group went to another company and I stayed behind. And when I came into the new company, the old company offered me a huge raise to come back, and I turned them down for, like you said, there's other reasons besides money, but he so appreciated my turning them down. He said he was dedicated to getting me to where I would be if I had taken that job, and he came through on his promise. So in about 7 years, I tripled my salary. So I don't think I could have done that on my own. I did that with a champion.
Yeah, I think early on I had already mentioned Patty Holden. She was really instrumental. And then the next one, and that was for about 10 years, was David Marino. So before I even gave David Marino any of my business in terms of leasing, he met with me with coffee and lunches repeatedly, and just has been a big champion of mine. And I still don't know why. So.
My last manager-director, Andy, over at TaylorMade, he taught me patience and kindness, and I would not be where I am without him. He was very much about relationships. He was also my biggest champion. He believed in me. It was very hard when I left TaylorMade to leave him, and you know, as a facility manager, you have so many things going on, and when you have service providers, a lot of times you don't know if they always have your best interest in mind. You know, if they're always just trying to sell you something, if they're ripping you off, you know, you're trying to look between the lines where how are they making their money. And he just taught me, you know what, Sandra, don't always assume the worst, you know. And he was right. Like there's a couple of vendors where I was just like, there's no way I can work with this guy. There's no way I can work with this girl. And Andy's like, no, you're gonna figure out a way. And some of my best vendor relationships were because of that. And he just really taught me, you know, you need to give everyone a chance and don't always assume the worst. You need to assume the best. They have good intentions.
Is he available for future lessons? Probably my two worst areas.
I saw some hands raised here. Who has a question? Ben.
In terms of professional designations, hi, I'm Ben.
Hey, Ben.
Hi, Ben.
Hey, Ben.
Or GC Thomas.
Come back, it works.
In terms of formal education, advanced degrees, letters behind your name, is there a point of diminishing returns? And if so, where's that line?
Well, I don't have my degree yet, so I'm still working on that. So I guess, you know, I feel like I'm only gonna benefit when I do get my degree. The dollar signs are only going to, and I'm so tired of people holding it against me. And so now they don't have to hold it against me once I have my degree. So no, I do feel that it will help me, don't get me wrong, but I do think my 20 years experience of what I do is really what's getting me here so far, and my determination and hard work. But I'm kind of on the bandwagon now. I'm going to get my master's probably, go through all these, you know. This is because now I have a time in my life where my children are grown, or so, you know, and something for me to do, to pass my time.
Yeah, so my initials are MFC, and then CFM is like the opposite of it, and I thought that was cool. So I don't think that makes its way into the marketing brochure, but provided some incentive. And, you know, I remember going to the World Workplace in Houston, and I sat in a room with over 800 practitioners, and they said, put your hand up if you are over 60 years old, right? And all the hands go up. Over 50, but not 60. Between 40 and 50. Between 30 and 40. And at that time, there was 3 people out of the 100 that were under the age of 30.
Wow.
And it just told me everything I needed to know, which was, if I go get my CFM, then I'm going to be like one of the younger people to hold that. And in 2010 is when I got the CFM. And I think it really helps in terms of like applying for jobs and the yes or no pile. So I don't know really if it's helped me directly, like could I monetize it in terms of a diminishing return, but do I think it gets my resume in the yes pile instead of the no pile? 100% I believe it does. And that's through the great effort that our organization has made in terms of making it relevant and making sure hiring managers are aware of the credential.
So I'm probably the expert on this question because I graduated with 351 units. I'm like 6 units shy of several other degrees. And then I got my master's. I got CFM, AICP, lead AP, and I'm a certified charrette facilitator. Is there a diminishing return? The last company I worked for wanted me to go after the PMP. I thought, seriously? Do I need one more thing that I have to maintain and that the company probably won't pay for me to maintain?
And the hardest of the bunch.
And it really depends on, my answer is going to be no, in that you get something out of each thing. And I did them mostly for myself. So I love education. I'd be in school right now if I could. So I think the diminishing return, I'm always learning something. So I would say if you're doing it for yourself, no, there's no diminishing return. But you do have to ask, why am I doing it? And am I doing it for the company? And is it going to get me anything? So I got the AICP because the military liked it. I got the CFM because schools liked it. I got the lead AP because I was kind of tired of clients asking me, did you have a lead certified person, review this? And yeah, I did. So you do it for yourself. So I kind of decided I drew the line at the PMP because it's like I was tired. I didn't know what it was going to get me. So.
Yeah, this one's easy for me. I didn't go to any distinguished colleges, and I have a master's and a bachelor's degree. I get the cheapest one you can, check the box, and move on, because it's really about you, and it certainly is a learning process. I again say there's no diminishing return, because I went, within 2 years of my master's degree, I went from like the 50K to 150K a year. So I think that's, as valuable, absolutely valuable. And having CFM behind my name, it's absolutely required. If you ever work for the GSA, they're going to require either an FMP or a CFM, and so you decide. Right?
Yeah, there's a law, was it like 2007 or something, that the government requires any government-owned and operated buildings to be maintained and operated by a credentialed person. So either AIA or PE, but CFM is one of the gold standards for that.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in with that last process that I was part of. They had 4 qualified applicants. So.
Yeah, you're less than 1% with that credential.
All right, we have another question up here.
Bob Templeton. My question is as much an answer from the panel already. Ben's question was part of what I was thinking about. For the mentor program, I think we should make it real clear to the mentors what we feel we should advise students or whoever we're mentoring, whether it be professionals or students, what direction we should give them, and what does each one of these designations mean. And also, if you get a chance to take a course free, or if you have to pay for it, consider that as part of your portfolio as you go along in your high school all the way up to, well, I'm still alive.
Was there any comment on that?
I was a consultant for so many years that, again, going back to the credential thing, you ask why you're doing it. The value of the PMP would have been to the company, because the company's putting together proposals and they like that initial in the back of my name. It wouldn't have been of value to me. And that's what I had to weigh. It's like, do I want something that is going to, it's important to me and it says something to other people about what I do, or am I doing it to help the company? And if the company's going to pay for me to do it and everything, sure. But ultimately, if it's for me, that's what I had to say, diminishing returns. So in terms of what I would advise somebody else is, what do you want? What's interesting to you? I recommend a lot of people starting out go for the SFP, because sustainability is the hot topic until they acquire the experience and education to go for the CFM. Get a credential and learn something along the way.
Mentoring. Along your question, mentoring, I've been mentored, and I'm mentoring people now. So it's important for both people. And up until I was 45 years old, I usually asked for older mentors, and now that I'm over 60, I have a 25-year-old mentoring me, because I know about the 65-year-old world. I don't know about the 25-year-old world. So, and thank you, Alex, by the way, for being my mentor.
That's great.
Yeah, the only other piece I wanted to add on that was, I was a teacher for a while with that UCSD certificate program for the principals of facilities management. And in terms of exposure, that was a great platform. For people that might be interested, it wasn't a lot. It was like 9 nights to commit 3 hours to figure out if this is something that you would be wanting to do or not want to do.
All right, we have a question from Lydia.
First of all, I want to comment that all four of you need to go see Ms. Amy and Glenda because you're all going to be mentors for our chapters. Oh my God, I always call you Amy. Sorry. My question is, where are the efforts from international or just in California to have universities and colleges create an FM actual BA program?
IFMA Foundation.
I know where the expert is.
IFMA Foundation is really championing that, and since Bill O'Neill is now the chair, hopefully he'll be really championing that as well. He comes from the University of Minnesota. Is Carlos still here? Carlos is working on that FM pipeline, and I believe right now there are 8 degree programs in North America. There's overseas as well, and that's part of what our chapter donates to the IFMA Foundation is scholarships for people getting degrees in facility management. Most of them are master's degree programs, but we would like to see something like that here in Southern California. But again, there hasn't been the demand, and obviously there's a demand. We need people, but they've just never heard of facility management. So we're not doing a good job of marketing. So what is the International doing it to that end? I mean, they're offering the CFM courses, but they're kind of preaching to the choir. They're offering them to people who are already in IFMA. So I don't know how we're outreaching. I mean,
a lot of those people are retiring.
Yeah. Exactly. There's a huge timing sound. Baby boomers leaving, and as he just said, that we need younger people to fill the gap. It isn't as pronounced here in the San Diego market yet, but it is in other. It's going to be where it's really pronounced is in areas like the Bay Area, Washington, D.C., and soon to be San Diego, where it's too expensive to live here and young entry-level professionals can't get jobs. So that's where we're going to have a real tough time backfilling.
All right, we probably have time for just a couple more questions. Any burning questions?
Hi everyone, Kit Nelson with Aerotek Staffing. This is for the panel on the whole. What would you say is the biggest misconception you see with facilities management as an industry or a profession?
We're all tool belt toting knuckleheads with a big key ring hanging off your belt, and that we're not who we are, which are the analytical machines that keep the second largest asset on the books, any facility that you have. That's the biggest expense there is in the entire organization. If you don't have someone who's doing the analytical work to keep it up and to do what's right and manage it and lease it and sell it, that's a misconception.
Yeah, and I'd say that's our biggest problem with marketing, and why young people, if you say, you want to be a facility manager, it's like, no, I don't want to be a janitor. And I mean, it's such a broad industry, so we're just not doing a good job of telling people what facilities is.
Yeah, that difference between a property manager and a facility manager, I think in terms of the biggest misconception, and that's even with loved ones. Still, some of my family members don't really understand what I do.
Misconception. I think facility managers were supposed to be subject matter experts at everything, and I think that's the biggest misconception, is that we are not experts at everything. And I think smart facility managers rely on their service providers to be the subject matter experts. And if you can manage those service providers, you look really good. And I think that comes back to the relationship is, hey, I have a lot of team of people that help me do my job. It's not me. And I think if we can relay that, just team up with good service providers, and your job will be easy. But I am not an expert on plumbing, HVAC, all of that. I rely on my experts to tell me. And I think they like that. They like me not telling them what to do.
Yeah, sometimes they can hear a message, just like your kids, they can hear a message differently or better from somebody else than you. And the same thing goes with our trusted service providers. And I love that you're saying that, Sandra, because I think you guys all know I'm a huge proponent of that as well, is that our service providers, if you're a facility manager and you're not having regular meetings with service providers, you're making a huge mistake. you need to make 15 minutes in your day at least once a week to learn about what products, services, and relationships are out there to help you be success. So, any last questions for our amazing panel today? Thank you very much.
I want to know what the most daring thing is. I only came here to ask one question. That's, what is the most daring thing you've ever done?
Okay. Go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, from the Green Beret.
Actually, I took a year off after working for 35 years, and I didn't think that was something you could do, but I found out I liked it, and I practiced that forever. So I took a year off, and it worked out, and it became a much better place for my head.
Good. That was a question I told Lisa when she gave us some advanced questions to think about, and I said, gosh, I really had to think about that one. It made me realize how risk averse I am. But I said, I'm anxious to hear what everybody else says. But I don't know that I've done it certainly recently. Like I said, I must be risk averse. But I have to say, there was a time in my life where I quit a job in solidarity with my coworkers. It was a situation where a small business and the employer reneged on a promise that she had made to the rest of us. And I have to say, that was really risky. I probably couldn't do it now. I have a mortgage. But back then, how empowering that was to be able to do that and to be in alignment with your values. So.
Yeah, in 2009, we had a lot of employees that did bring electronics in an acetone bath with no ventilation or PPE, and I called OSHA on my own employer.
How'd that work out for you?
We got the system.
The most daring thing, I think when I was let go from Sammy's Woodfire Pizza, I really had, like I said, to dig deep down and understand, do I really want to keep doing restaurant facilities? And I think just moving from the restaurant facilities to the office facilities was a huge jump for me. I didn't know anything about space planning. I didn't know anything about moves. I didn't know anything about offices. I was used to running restaurants. And I'm so glad I made the move. You work way too hard in restaurant facilities. Not that you don't on regular, but I'm telling you, it was probably, I took a leap of faith, and it's really paid off. I enjoy what I do now.
In your career, you're going to run into, if you haven't already, you're going to run into that situation you don't know anything about. Somebody says, hey, build this 400,000 square foot warehouse for me, and you go, I've never built anything in my life. There's somebody in this organization who can help you. You have to ask. And if you run out of people, call me. I'm going to be in flip-flops and a Tommy Bahama t-shirt. All good.
Well, thank you again to our amazing panel.
Thank you all for attending. I really appreciate it. And thank you to the panel. Thank you, Lisa, for moderating. And hopefully we'll see you at an upcoming event. Don't forget to come see CDSI and talk to the ladies in Hawaiian attire.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Have a great day.
Thank you.